Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress, as you can plainly see. I'm your host, Sam. Alongside me, as always, our esteemed co-host, Tarik. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, Sam. How about you?
I'm doing really good. And of course, this week we are joined again by our esteemed expert, Brady. How you doing tonight?
It feels good to be back, and I'm ready to talk some more football.
And you're esteemed. It's fantastic.
I'm going to add that to my resume after this.
You should add Esquire to the end. This, of course, is brought to you by Morningwood Crafter. Morningwood Crafter, inspired by design, crafted by hand, and into deep. Catch their next show at Fishhead Cantina on October 1st at 8 p.m. So it was a crazy week last week, wasn't it, guys?
It was crazy. That's the easiest way to put it. With the rash of starting quarterback injuries to so many teams, how do you guys think that's going to affect teams going forward?
Quite frankly, quite a few teams. It's gonna be hugely detrimental. Houston, Miami. Miami had a chance, depending on how long Tua was out, and Houston surprisingly was doing great. Indianapolis, of course, Easton is not the answer. And Chicago might already have the answer in the wings, but it's it's certainly going to impact them big.
Yeah, you got some of these teams that they're already on their backup. They're trying to replace quarterbacks who left or got traded or got hurt. And then you got other teams who just didn't bother getting one. So you got so it's there's a lot of finagling. I mean, what happened with the Broncos last year with all the COVID protocols and everything? They were using a practice squad wide receiver who threw once in high school. Which one do you guys think is going to be affected the most? Because I was thinking, if I can start it off, I was thinking Indy. They're already hurting. Carson Wentz isn't the best anyway. They're just trying to get a veteran quarterback in there, and sprains both of his ankles. So I think they're going to be hurting really bad in a division that they potentially could have done well at, because Tennessee hasn't been doing well. Houston's going to be hit or miss with their rotating situation, and Jacksonville's just Jacksonville. So what do you think? Who do you guys think is going to be hurting more?
I'm going to take the flip side of that and say that I think Chicago, with their new quarterback in Justin Fields, now that Dalton may be out for some time, I think this is going to be a positive spin for that team. I think it's going to allow them to reinvent their identity as more of a running option team, like we're seeing come through a lot of other organizations, and not really have to rely on a pocket passer, and kind of reinvigorate this team and really get back to that Chicago-style football.
That's a good way to think about it. Positive. Most people think negative when it comes to that kind of thing. And quite frankly, that's where I was going to go. Miami with Tua out, depending on how long he's out. Jacoby Brissett, they're in a surprisingly difficult division with Buffalo and the Patriots resurging, of course. Houston, I never really thought their start was going to continue for very long. So. But Miami, this might cost them the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, we have history. There's history in previous years of the backup doing well. So famously, your team, Sam, I mean, he's possibly infamous for it, is Drew Bledsoe. He was the quarterback for the Patriots. He went out. Somebody who took over after him.
I haven't heard his name in forever.
Some has been.
Tom Brady. Tom Brady came up. And then he went to Dallas. And then Tony Romo came up. Now, that's, I think, a divisive quarterback among Dallas fans. But sometimes that backup does end up being the saving grace.
I would agree with that. And prime example, of course, is also Kurt Warner.
I agree. I think this is going to be really interesting to see how well these other teams who don't have that bona fide backup or a up and coming star on their roster, to see how they're able to try and stay in these football games. Given that a lot of divisions, they're still very close. Given it's only been 2 games, but there's been a lot of close games. A lot of surprise teams coming out of the gate. So it's going to be a very interesting week to pay attention to who does what.
Absolutely, especially considering this is about the time that teams start showing you who they are. They start to find their identity, and you'll be able to pick out who is the real deal, who isn't after this week and probably week 4. Usually it's week 4 is the latest they start doing that. Well, let's see how we are starting to shape up with a look at standings. And look at that, Jessica running away.
I jumped up.
But Tarik, right on her back. Brian, of course, still leading by a point, even with that amazing week by Jessica. Pretty surprising.
That was a rough week for me.
9-7. It could be worse, but that's what we do. We strive for perfection on this show.
It's a work in progress for a reason.
But an improvement on my end. 11-5 is great. I'm 2 out of first. That's where I like to be. Counts at 2 from behind.
That's where you like to be? You like to be not winning?
I like to pounce.
This is a family show.
Right. But let's move on to Brady's game of the week. Who you got, Brady?
So I alluded to it earlier. I have the Chicago Bears going against
Bears.
The Browns. I think this is going to be an extremely interesting game to watch. Not only are we going to get to see possibly what Justin Fields can do as a starting quarterback, but on the other side of the ball, Cleveland's got a lot of injuries at the wide receiver core. Jarvis Landry was just placed on IR, but they're hopeful they're going to get Odell Beckham back. So I think this is going to be a very run-heavy game from both teams. And it's just going to come down to which defense can put together more stops. I don't think there's going to be a lot of turnovers in this game. But I really think this is going to be one of those games where we're going to find out whether Justin Fields can play at the NFL level consistently. And 2, what are the Browns made of? This is an extreme adversity for them to face early in the season. But I have Chicago coming out of this one. I think the Bears defense is just a little bit better on paper in order to stop the run versus Cleveland going the other way. And honestly, Justin Fields is still kind of a wild card. So he could be amazing or he could lay an egg.
Tarik, what do you think?
Okay. Well, all right. Forgetting the order here. Right. So, yeah, that sounds like I really can't disagree there. So, Browns are playing some decent football here, and Chicago's showing the face that, in my opinion, my observation, has been the face they've showed the entire time been in football, which is let's do a defense. They got to the Super Bowl years ago, I think in 2006, based on their defense. They won several games by getting defensive touchdowns. So it looks like that's the same makeup they're trying to do. Browns are trying to claw their way into a fairly tough, not the toughest, but a fairly tough division. With Steelers shocking us all and Ravens doing what the Ravens have been working towards. And Bengals, whether they do well or not, they go down swinging. So I think this is going to be interesting. I think it's going to be hopefully it'll be a good game. Let me just double check who I have because I'm professional. I have the Browns winning this. I think their offense is going to be able to overcome the Chicago defense here. So how about you, Sam?
This is why we practice these things. God dang it.
What are we practicing?
Yeah. Anywho, Yeah, I think this does come down to offensive lines versus defensive lines in this regard. Absolutely, running game is going to be essential for the Bears if they want to win a couple games. David Montgomery's a good running back, but that offensive line has to beat that defensive line in a way that the Browns' offensive line has been beating defensive lines all year. They got Kareem Hunt, they got Chubb, two really good backs. It may come down. I think it comes down to that who can run the ball best. And my money's on the Browns this week simply because they've done it longer. Justin Fields may be playing from behind, and rookie quarterbacks, it's hard to predict how that works out for them. So, all right, let's move on to Tarik's game of the week.
All right, so my game of the week, and I try again. If you remember from last year, I try not to pick the NFL's picks, but this one just looked like a really good matchup. I got the Green Bay Packers against the the 49ers. Different game. So we got a lot of people's pick for the Super Bowl. And then we got the San Francisco 49ers. You got the quarterback back, and they're one of the few undefeated teams left in the NFL right now. So Packers, who's going to show up this week? Is it going to be the Aaron Rodgers from week 1, who looked like he couldn't care less? Or is it going to be the one last week who actually looked like he wanted a job? So I don't know who's going to show up, but I think San Francisco is showing more consistency. They're showing they actually want this. They got pieces in place. I think they're going to come away with it.
Green Bay, yeah, you're right. They absolutely looked horrible in week 1. That defense looked bad. That offense was throwing picks everywhere. But it is Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like Aaron Rodgers is a hard nut to crack multiple games in the season. San Francisco, however, that defense week 1 was pretty bad. I mean, they let the Lions into the game. It was 39. Gave up 39 points. And last week they did hold the Philadelphia Eagles to 11, which, I mean, it's still to be determined how those Eagles are actually going to play this year. Considering that both of these teams are really good and both of these teams are legitimate Super Bowl contenders, I see Green Bay with the victory here, but I see this as one of the most exciting games of the week.
I agree. I think Green Bay is going to win this game. I don't think it is a matter of who shows up, which Aaron Rodgers shows up, that is. But I think San Francisco's, they've got too many injuries. They lost all 3 of their running backs last week to injury. One wound up coming back in the game, but they originally had someone who was slated to only play special teams running the ball for them towards the end of the game. A couple of their corners are down with injury, and they still really haven't pulled that trigger. They keep trotting Trey Lance out there for a play or two, and they're kind of toying with us whether we're going to get to see him in a full game or not. I think San Francisco has too many holes on the team right now with injuries. And last night, Aaron Rodgers looked like Aaron Rodgers, except for they've somehow developed a run game. And if the Green Bay Packers can develop a run game, they're going to be a dangerous team to watch. So I have Green Bay winning this one.
All right, let's move on to our next game. We have the Tampa Bay Tom Brady's going up against those Los Angeles Rams. In my opinion, this is essentially my game of the week right here. Both of these teams are 2-0. They're coming off of big wins. Tampa Bay absolutely blowing Atlanta out of the water. After, of course, they let them get back in, made them feel special for a moment. The Rams rolling with Matthew Stafford. He is absolutely thrilled to be where he's at right now because that team complements him so well. And I think that one of these teams has to lose. Get their first loss this week. And I think it's going to be Tampa Bay that gets their first loss this week.
I agree with you, Sam. I think this is going to be the week that Tampa Bay gets their first loss. Aaron Donald got kind of stuffed last week against the Colts, but he was also going against Quentin Nelson. I don't think anyone on the Tampa Bay offensive line is going to be able to handle that. And even if they are, there's still the likes of the rest of LA's defense. I think they're going to put up a much bigger fight than Atlanta's defense did last week. And I think Matthew Stafford, this is going to be the game where we get what we expect out of him. I think they're at Los Angeles's offense has been a little slow. And now that they may be out another running back this week, they may be a little slower. But I think this is going to be the week that they pull out all of those trick plays and we start to see what really the Rams can do on offense. So I think this is going to be a fun game to watch. But yes, I think this is the week that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose the first game.
So we got the Tom Brady's and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like the puns. So this was my backup game of the week. I think this is going to be good. We got 2 undefeated teams. I'm going to be the upset here and go with the Buccaneers. As much as I hope you guys are right, because I want Tom Brady to lose. But I think just I'm looking at experience and who has more experience going against teams that are potentially able to defeat him than Tom Brady. Matt Stafford was with Detroit for how many years? A team that he was the only real good part of. Detroit hasn't been a good team in decades. So I think Tom Brady's going to win this. I think it's going to be close. I think they're going to give him a run for his money, but if they give him any time at the end, he showed what he's doing still at this age. So I think Tom Brady's going to win it.
All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the surprising 1-1 Bengals going against the also surprising 1-1 Steelers. What do you got, Brady?
I think this is going to be a very interesting game. The Steelers coming out of the gate kind of slow. A couple of key injuries happening last week to TJ Watt. I think that's going to be a big factor here, whether he can play or not. And the Bengals seem to have kind of put this rhythm together. Jamar Chase has been able to, figure out how to catch an NFL-sized football. Joe Mixon's having himself a nice start to the season. I think this is going to be a really nice divisional matchup against two teams that I think are more evenly matched on paper than other analysts, experts, if you will give them credit for. I think this is going to be very close. But as a Ravens fan, I've seen many games where the Steelers have come in with Ben Roethlisberger touting an injury on his report and him somehow being able to fight through the pain, in air quotes, and pull out a victory. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. But I think the Steelers are going to win this game.
I like how you said he had to learn how to catch an NFL football.
Yeah, I caught that too. I'm like, wait a minute, what? I agree with everything you just said, Brady. I really don't have anything contrary to that. I was looking at that too. And I think I kind of like what I said last round is you're going against someone and you have the experience, you know how to win. This is the same system that's been in place, the same coach that's been there for years. Ben's going to do what Ben does until he can't do it anymore. So, which we'll see how long it lasts. But I got the Steelers coming away with this too.
So I got the upset in this one. I got the Bengals, and I'm going to tell you why. They do have a plethora of offensive weapons right now. Joe Mixon is actually picking up his game. You got T. Higgins, you got Jamar on the as a wide receiver, and their offense is actually doing pretty good. Now, contrast to that, the Steelers' offense has been really, really bad other than one player, Najee Harris. Unfortunately, Ben Roethlisberger he just looked bad. He looks like he's just about done. And the problem is that's going to absolutely be a problem this week. The only reason they beat the Buffalo Bills was because of that punt block. So, quite frankly, I see the upset happening. I see the Bengals going into Pittsburgh and getting that victory. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Chargers at the Kansas City Chiefs.
All right, so let's see who I've got. So the Chargers have looked okay. They got the same record, or this early in the season. I guess it's easier said than done. But everyone's talking about the new quarterback. Kansas City Chiefs just got their first loss of the season. Patrick Mahomes' first loss in September ever to the Ravens last week. So this is a good divisional game for the AFC West. I'm just going to go. I think the Chiefs they're a little hurt. They're going to take this on the chin from the loss. I think they're going to come out swinging. They're going to come out hard, and they're going to try and put this to bed early. They made it to the Super Bowl the last 2 years, so they're not to be trifled with. And I think that I feel sorry for the Bolts for the licking I feel like they're going to take this week. So I'm going with Kansas City.
It's not a bad assessment on this game. KC, San Diego Chargers. I keep saying San Diego, the Los Angeles Chargers. I'm going to get into the 2020s at some point. Kansas City, dangerous team. They did lose last week to Baltimore in an exciting, thrilling game. That was a good game.
Very good game.
Quite frankly, this is going to be another exciting game. I think it's going to be high scoring because Kansas City doesn't really have a defense, but they got one hell of an offense. I think the Chargers keep up with them, but I think KC pulls it out in the end.
I agree. I think Kansas City pulls this out in the end. I think the Chargers, if they can stop committing so many offensive penalties, they're going to be so much better. We saw last week Kansas City has a hard time defending against the run. The Chargers don't really do the run all that well, but they do the short screen pass very well. So it's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams match up. Two really high-powered offenses and two very mediocre defenses. I think Kansas City is going to pull this out in like a 45-40 victory on fourth quarter Hail Mary touchdown. But I think this is going to be one of those games where SportsCenter is going to play the highlights for 3 minutes.
I think you're right. All right, let's move on to the next game. We have the Monday Night Football game. The Philadelphia Eagles going down to Dallas. Both of these teams 1-1. The Eagles scoring 11 points last week. The Cowboys scoring 20. But both playing pretty quality opponents, in my opinion. The Chargers, of course, having a hard time scoring against Dallas with a couple of miscues and turnovers. The Eagles, they just seem stifled all day against the 49ers. Only a couple of players could get anything rolling, and it just didn't pan out for them. Monday night, it's going to be an exciting game, and I know Dallas's defense is still hurting. They're still missing DeMarcus Lawrence. They're still missing Randy Gregory will be back this week because of back from COVID. I have the Cowboys in this one, but it could go either way.
I have the Cowboys in this one solely for the fact of how using their backup running back last week, how well they were able to run the ball. I think Dallas is going to lean heavy on this run game in this game as well and really show that they can do it with whoever they put back there because that offensive line with Travis Frederick is just that good. I think the book kind of got out on the Eagles after week 1 when they put up 30-some points. And the Niners kind of showed them like, hey, no, you're still the Eagles. Stop that. And this is a divisional game. It's going to be rough. It's going to be ugly. But I think Dallas is going to just command too much of the clock with that run game in order to put Eagles in any chance of making this a close game.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I got Dallas going away with this one, too. I don't think it's going to be close. I like Brady's thing there. I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Dallas came out swinging, almost won their first game. They came out last week showing they still got it. They're not a fluke. Meanwhile, the Eagles did show they are still the Eagles. So I don't think it's going to be close, but I got Dallas coming away.
Wow. The only Dallas fan here, and I'm the one that thinks it's going to be a close game.
Because you've been hurt. You've been hurt so many times, Sam.
I don't know if I can love again. All right, guys, let's move on to our quick hitters. And we're going to start with the surprising 2-0 Carolina Panthers going against the also surprising 1-1 Houston Texans.
If you guys watched our first video of the season, the Carolina Panthers, they were my surprise team of 2021. I don't think it's going to be a surprise that they win this game and wind up 3-0 in that division.
I agree. I'm going with Carolina.
Quite frankly, I'm surprised I'm saying it too. Carolina in this one, no Tyrod. I think Houston struggles. All right, let's move on to the Washington football team, 1-1 against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be close at all. I know Washington 1-1, but I think Buffalo is just too good. I think Buffalo's got it.
Surprisingly, Washington is also on a backup, but Heineke has looked okay at times. I still got Buffalo. They're getting their ship righted this week.
Buffalo's got that run game working. I think Buffalo's going to win this easy.
All right, let's move on to the Baltimore Ravens going up against the 0-2 Lions. Gave the Packers a bit of a scare last night, but I still have the Ravens winning this one, running away.
I agree. I think the Ravens are going to ride that high after beating Kansas City on primetime and really just going to use that running game to control this game. Ravens by 20.
I agree with everything you two have said. Go Baltimore.
All right. Let's go on to the Indianapolis Colts minus Carson Wentz against the Tennessee Titans with that bruiser running back.
Yeah, I was giving the Colts a shot until Carson Wentz went down, and that shot is now gone, so I'm going with Tennessee.
I agree wholeheartedly. Without Carson Wentz, I don't think Indianapolis is going to put a point on the board.
I'd say their chances are pretty much shot as well. I got Tennessee. All right, let's move on to the next game. The New Orleans Saints at the New England Patriots.
I think this is going to be an interesting game. The Saints kind of got put back in their place last week. I have I'm pulling a Tarik here. 1 second. I have the Saints.
I don't want that to be a thing. I don't want that to be a thing.
I'm putting it on a shirt. I have the Saints winning this one. I think they're going to realize that they need to run the ball more.
I have the surprise upset 2 in this one. I have the Saints winning, getting them to 2-1.
Yeah, I got the Saints coming away with this one as well.
All right, let's move on to the next game. The Atlanta Falcons going against the New York Giants. What a burner! 0-2 or 0-2. Somebody's got to get a win this week unless they tie. God, please. I have the Falcons in this one.
I'm going the other way. I'm going with the Giants.
I've got the Falcons, and I swear if there's a tie this year, it's this game.
The Bengals almost tied again this year, which is just funny. They seem to be the team to do it. All right, let's move on to the Arizona Cardinals 2-0 against the 0-2 Jaguars.
All right, so I'm going with Arizona on this. I don't think Jacksonville stands a chance. I feel sorry for their new quarterback. He's been dealt his first 2 losses ever since high school, and he's going to get his third one this week. So Arizona.
Trevor Lawrence is going to be sitting by the third quarter. Arizona by a bunch.
Trevor Lawrence is going to be in this game the entire time, but Arizona is still going to blow him out. Arizona for the win. All right, let's move on to the New York Jets 0-2 going against those Denver Broncos. Wily they are.
All right, so I'm going with Denver on this one, not just because I'm a fan, but I mean, A, it's the Jets, and B, the Denver Broncos have actually looked good. Bridgewater's actually looking good. Cortland Sutton looked good, so they actually got something moving forward. So Denver.
Agreed. I think this is going to be just another Zach Wilson game for the Jets. I think Denver's going to easily win this one.
The Jets were my surprise pick to make the playoffs this year, and I've seen a couple games, and I am no longer picking them to make the playoffs this year. The Denver Broncos with the victory. All right, let's move on to another surprising 2-0 team, the Las Vegas Raiders, beating 2 AFC North teams already, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens, going up against the Miami Dolphins. Who you got, Brady?
I think it's going to be a good game, but I think the Raiders are going to pull this out. They showed they're a strong team, they're a tough team, and they're going to win this easily.
Yeah, I'm picking not Oakland, Las Vegas. I'm pulling a Sam now. We're gonna get that on a t-shirt.
San Diego's.
So Las Vegas is just they're showing it. And Miami's they're 1-1, but I don't think they have what it takes to go against the Raiders right now. So Las Vegas.
Jacoby Brissett is not going to win this game. However, I still think that the Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. Las Vegas for the win. All right. Go on to the last game we have here. The Seattle Seahawks going up against the Minnesota Vikings. Seahawks with a loss in overtime to those pesky Titans, of course. When is DK Metcalf going to get a touchdown? This week. Seahawks for the win.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the Seahawks this week. Minnesota's just not showing up. I don't think they have the tools. It's just going to be Seattle all the way.
Minnesota is a kicker away from being 1-1, but I still think Seattle's got too many weapons for that defense to keep up with.
All right, then, folks, that's it for this week. We thank you for joining us, of course, and as always, pick against us. Tell us where we did wrong. Put something in the comments. Just say hi.
Yeah, thank you guys for subscribing. Let us click that button. I know how to speak. So you know when our videos come out. And as always, thanks for showing up, guys. I'm Tarik.
I'm Sam.
And I'm the illustrious Brady.
And you guys have a great football week. Better than our video this week.
Bye, guys.